You ever hear silence so heavy it feels like it is weight? Like the air itself is leaning down on you, pressing against your chest, daring you to move? That was a kind of silence I felt that night in the woods. No wind, no crickets, not even a leaf moving. Just a void that swallowed everything. And then, the sound that broke it wasn't footsteps. It wasn't an animal. It was breathing. Someone was standing inches from my tent. I froze. My flashlight rested by my sleeping bag, but I couldn't move to grab it. My eyes were locked on the thin nylon wall of the tent, where a faint outline shifted. Broad shoulders. A head tilted slightly, listening. The shape was so close I could see it bend with every breath. And then came the sound I'll never forget, the soft metallic tick of my zipper moving. It wasn't fast. Whoever it was pulled it slowly, inch by inch, like they were savoring the moment. A sliver of cold night air slid in, brushing my face. I held my breath. My heart thudded so hard I swore they could hear it. The zipper stopped. Silence again. And then, as suddenly as it began, the shadow moved away. I didn't sleep a second after that. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. You imagined it. It was just an animal. Believe me, I tried to convince myself of that too. But the next morning, when I finally unzipped the tent, I saw them. Footprints. Clear, human footprints circling my tent. That's when I should have packed my bag and left. But stupid curiosity is stronger than fear sometimes. And that was only the beginning. The trip started normal enough. I'd gone hiking alone plenty of times before. Nothing new. I like the solitude, the clean air, the way your mind clears when the only sound is dirt crunching under your boots. This trail was deep in Montana, far from cell service, far from people. That was the point. Or at least, that's what I told myself. Around late afternoon, maybe an hour before I set up camp, I saw him. At first, I thought he was another hiker, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a faded flannel shirt. He was standing just off the path, leaning against a tree, watching me. "Hey!" I called out, raising a hand. No response. The guy didn't move, didn't even blink, as far as I could tell. Just stared. I tried again. "You good out here?" Silence. Something about the way he stood, the way his head tilted just slightly too far to one side, made the hair on my arms rise. It wasn't a relaxed lean. It was wrong. I tightened the straps of my pack and kept walking. Every step I expected to hear him follow. But the forest stayed quiet, too quiet. When I finally looked back, he was gone. That night, setting up my tent, I told myself I imagined him. Maybe I was tired. Maybe it was a trick of the light. But deep down, I knew I hadn't imagined the way his eyes followed me. And when I heard the breathing outside my tent a few hours later, I realized the truth. I hadn't left him behind. I had invited him in. The morning after that first encounter, I walked a slow circle around my tent. My boots pressed into the dirt right alongside the marks already there. Bare footprints. Not boot prints. Not shoes. Bare feet. They weren't mine. The ground was still damp from last night's rain, and the impressions were fresh, deep enough that I could see the curve of each toe. They circled my tent twice, pausing at the zipper, then moving off into the trees. Whoever had been there hadn't stumbled through the forest barefoot. They had walked with purpose. That's when the lie I'd been feeding myself, that it was just an animal, just my imagination, crumbled. Someone had been outside. Someone had tried to get in. I should have left. I know that now. But fear has this weird way of twisting into stubbornness. I told myself I wasn't going to be chased away by some lunatic playing games. I packed up my tent, hiked deeper into the woods, and set up camp again by a creek. By late afternoon, I tried to shake it off. Made a fire, cooked some noodles, listened to the water rushing past. The forest almost convinced me I was safe again. Almost. But when night fell, the silence returned. The cricket stopped. The wind died. The water, once a constant comfort, sounded distant, muffled, like someone had placed thick hands over my ears. I sat by the fire, staring at the trees, and then I heard it again. Breathing. Not mine. Not the steady rhythm of my own chest. This was heavier, slower. Someone was close. "Hello." My voice cracked in the darkness. "Who's out there?" No answer. Just that same steady inhale, exhale. I grabbed my flashlight and swept it across the trees. The beam cut through the branches, lighting up trunks, underbrush, shadows that seemed to move when I wasn't looking. But no one was there, or so I thought. I swung the light back toward the fire, and for a split second, just beyond the glow, I saw him, the man from the trail, still in that same faded flannel, still standing too stiff, too still. His face caught the edge of the light, blank, pale, eyes reflecting like glass. And then he was gone. I stood there shaking, the flashlight trembling in my hand, the fire crackling far too loud in the silence. My chest ached from holding my breath. That's when I realized something worse. The footprints around my tent the night before, they hadn't just circled. They had doubled back. Some of them overlapped, like whoever it was had walked around and around, for hours, just watching. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound made me flinch. The snap of branches, the hiss of wind, even the shifting of my own sleeping bag. My eyes burned, refusing to close. Because I knew if I did, if I let myself drift off even a second, the zipper would move again. And this time, they wouldn't stop. By dawn, I was half delirious, staring at the thin nylon walls of my tent like they were made of glass. When I finally crawled out, my body was stiff, my head pounding. The fire was nothing but ash. And there they were, fresh footprints. Bay, damp, circling my tent again. Only this time, there was something new. Right in front of the zipper, pressed into the mud, was a perfect set of prints, 2 feet, side by side, facing the tent. Like whoever it was had just stood there, unmoving, for God knows how long, watching me sleep. By the third night, fear had stopped feeling sharp. It had settled into me like a sickness, heavy and constant. Every step I took on that trail, every glance into the trees, I could feel him, always just out of sight. I kept telling myself, maybe if I go deeper into the woods, he'll stop following. But that logic was insane. The deeper I went, the further I was from anyone who could help me. Still, I pressed on. That night, I set up camp in a hollow near ridge. The place was dark, overgrown, almost claustrophobic. The kind of spot where sound doesn't travel right. My fire looked weak, swallowed by the trees. I was eating when I heard it again, breathing. Except this time, it didn't stay outside.
Help me!
Help me! The voice was low, ragged. But it wasn't just a voice. It was mine. Help me, let me out. The sound came from just beyond the firelight. My foot clattered onto the dirt. My throat went dry. No, I whispered. No, no. The voice grew stronger, angrier. Help me. I staggered to my feet, flashlight shaking as I pointed it toward the trees. Nothing, only shadows. But then, one of the shadows moved. It leaned forward, peeling itself off the trunk of a tree, stretching unnaturally tall and thin. Its outline was mine. Its stance was mine. But its face was just a blur of darkness, no features at all. Let me in, it whispered. My own voice, but warped. I dropped the flashlight. The beam spun across the date, lighting up roots, rocks, until it caught something I hadn't seen before. A square outline, half buried under moss and leaves. A trapdoor. My chest tightened. The shadow froze as if it knew I'd seen it. And then, without moving closer, it melted back into the trees, vanishing like smoke. I stood there shaking, staring at the ground. Against every instinct screaming at me to run, I knelt and pulled away the moss. The wood beneath was old, cracked, weathered by years. A rusted handle sat in the middle. I hesitated. My hands trembled as I grabbed the handle and pulled. The wood groaned, resisting, until finally the trapdoor creaked open. The smell hit first, damp, sour, like earth and rut. I shined my flashlight down. Narrow steps descended into a pitch-black space. The walls were lined with stone, wet and glistening. At the bottom, I saw it, a mirror, just standing there, propped against the far wall. At first glance, it looked ordinary, but the longer I stayed, the colder my stomach grew. My reflection wasn't right. It was me, but slower. When I tilted my head, it tilted a beat too late. When I raised my hand, It twitched before catching up, and then it smiled. I wasn't smiling. I stumbled back, my breath ragged. The trapdoor slammed shut above me with a violent crack. Darkness swallowed everything. For a second, I thought I was trapped down there. But when I scrambled up the steps, shoving the trapdoor open again, I was back under the night sky. My fire had nearly died. The forest was dead silent. And my reflection, my other self, was still smiling in the dark below. I should have left. After seeing that mirror, after seeing him, I should have packed my bag, run through the night, and never looked back. But something in me, pride, fear, maybe madness, wouldn't let go. I needed to know what it was. The fourth night, I didn't make a fire. I wanted the dark to hide me as much as it hid him. My tent was zipped shut, my flashlight gripped so tight my knuckles ached. Every second dragged like an hour. My eyes refused to close. And then, around midnight, the zipper moved again. Slow, careful. The sound sliced through the silence like a knife. I held my breath, waiting, praying. This time, it didn't stop. The flap slid open, and I saw him. Oh, I saw myself. He crawled inside, head ducked low, moving like a shadow peeled from my body. His skin was pale, almost gray. His mouth stretched into that same unnatural smile I'd seen in the mirror. I scrambled backward until my spine hit the nylon wall of the tent. Stay the hell away from me. He tilted his head, studying me with eerie fascination. Then, in my own voice, perfect, identical, he whispered, "You already let me out." Before I could move, he lunged. The tent collapsed around us as we crashed through the fabric, rolling into the date. My flashlight spun away, beam flickering across the trees. His hands were ice cold, gripping my wrist with inhuman strength. His face hovered inches from mine, smiling, always smiling. I kicked, screamed, tore at him, but every move I made, he mirrored, like fighting my own reflection. Every punch I threw, he countered with the same motion. It was like wrestling with a twisted version of myself. Finally, with a surge of panic, I grabbed a jagged rock from the ground and swung. The impact connected with a sickening crack. He fell back, hissing, his smile never faltering even as dark liquid seeped from his temple. For a moment, the forest went still. I staggered to my feet, chest heaving, heart pounding. The figure writhed in the date, pale hands twitching. And then, without warning, it melted, like smoke dissolving into the air. Gone. I stood there alone, trembling, surrounded by the shredded remains of my tent. I didn't wait for dawn. I left everything, tent, pack, food, and stumbled through the woods until the sky lightened. By the time I reached the trailhead, I was half dead from exhaustion. But here's the part one can't explain. When I finally made it home, dirty, shaking, still in shock, I went straight to the bathroom to wash my face. And when I looked into the mirror, my reflection didn't move. It just stared at me, smiling. I dropped the sink handle and stumbled back. My reflection lifted its hand slowly, deliberately, even though mine hadn't moved. Its mouth opened, stretching wider than humanly possible. And in my own voice, low and ragged, it whispered, "Help me." That's when I understood. The thing in the woods hadn't followed me home. It hadn't needed to, because it was me all along.